Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Nami Shivarshabhanavi Devi Dayachaya Kripadhyaya Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Dayane Prabhave Namaha Madhuryo Jvala Premardhya Shri Rupanoga Bhaktida Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namostute Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Dinatarine Rupanoga Viruddha Siddhanta Dvantarine. Hare Krishna. Now both the kirtans we just sung finished with crying. Karuna na hoile kandiya kandiya prana rakibawa. If I don't get your mercy, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, I will simply weep. I won't maintain my life and will simply weep. And then, Shishonga na paya kande narotamudas. Narotam. Feeling that I came just after the disappearance of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and all his associates. So how they all left this world. He's not getting their association, I simply weep. So this is the disappearance day of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who none of us directly saw, so you may think, well, how are we going to weep for his association if we never got it? And what are we doing here anyway, celebrating this disappearance day? But through Srila Prabhupada, I suppose we should say our own Srila Prabhupada, because to his disciples and to all of his disciplic followers outside of ISKCON, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is known as Srila Prabhupada. That's one source of Hare Krishna. That's one source of unnecessary controversy. So Srila Prabhupada, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada and his subsequent disciplic followers, by the process of parampara, link us to all these great personalities. Srila Prabhupada once said that by reading my books one gets in touch with all the acharyas. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur also taught that the books that are given to us by the acharyas, they're not simply books, they're not simply writing on pieces of paper, but they are the presence of the acharyas. The acharyas are present within them. So we are linked with Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur through Srila Prabhupada, who himself said that practically everything about Krishna consciousness was taught to him by his father, Gaurmohande, who he said was a pure devotee. He wasn't a world famous acharya, he was a very simple person, living at home, doing a little business and doing a lot of puja. That was his life. And he had his family and he looked after them. He was a pure devotee. So Prabhupada said that the extra thing that I learned from my Guru Maharaj was book production, which Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur himself learned from one of his two gurus. He was initiated, of course, by Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj, but practically he often referred to his gurus, referring to Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj. And most of what he learned from Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. What is there for him to learn? He is Varshabhanavi Devi Dayata Das. He is the servant of Krishna, who is in this name known to be the lover of Radharani, and his own disciples identified him as Nayan Mani Manjari,
we could say his Nitya Swarup, his eternal form in Vraj Leela. Although he also has the form Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, that's also not a temporary form. It's not that he's just temporarily there. So Nayan Mani, this means it literally means the jewel of the eye. So that means something which is very dear. That's something that you very much like to see. So this name means what is because he's the servant of both Radha and Krishna. So Nayan Mani means for Krishna, what does he like to see? He doesn't like to see anything except Radha. And Radha likes to see Krishna. So he is the form of Krishna's looking at Radha and Radha's looking at Krishna. So the dear thing in the eye of Krishna is Radha, and in the eye of Radha is Krishna. And to themselves, what is very dear is their eye, because by that they can see each other. So his eternal personality manifested in this world, apparently as the son of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, although he never referred to Bhaktivinoda Thakur as father. Conventionally we may say he was the father of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, but he was against those who saw Bhaktivinoda Thakur in any material way. He said those who see him as father or as a Baba means father, or as a Babu, as some respectable gentleman of this world, they do not see. He told so many people that you never saw Bhaktivinoda Thakur, even though they were apparently lifelong associates. He told them that actually you never saw him, because you saw him through the materialistic vision. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur appeared to learn about bhakti from Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Although Bhaktivinoda and Bhaktisiddhanta are eternally related. Bhaktivinoda means the joy of bhakti. But that joy of bhakti, that is not accessible without Bhaktisiddhanta. The Prakrita Sahajiyas, they want to jump into Prem Bhakti without understanding the process, without following the process. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur established what is Bhaktisiddhanta. He is Bhaktisiddhanta. He's everything that he does and says is inseparable from Bhaktisiddhanta. So he learned from Bhaktivinoda Thakur about the printing press. Everything. How to set type. Remember those days, Bhima Prabhu? You were in Bombay. I was in Calcutta, which is less materially advanced. But when we were first printing books, it was, you take out with the tweezer, the type, each individual, and put it down, and that was a very long process. And then after that came linotype, and then something else, photo. Then we got to computers, photo typesetting. So that was the system. It was a very long, drawn-out process. You have to write your manuscript and then set the type. Then you have to proofread it several times. Proofread it and copy read it. And then it can be printed like this. moving the machine by hand. That was the printing process. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he was writing books and he produced his magazine on and off, Sajjana Toshani, and he taught everything about the press operations to Bimala Prasad, the child who he called Bimala Prasad. Bimala, all his sons he actually called by names like this: Anada Prasad, Lalita Prasad, names of externally appearing to be the names of Durga. Although the Bimala Prasad appeared in Puri, where the Shakti, Puri is the place of the Lord, and it's also one of the Shakti Pitams. So their Shakti, or the energy of Lord Shiva, is known as Bimala. But that Bimala, she's not just the Shakti of this material world, but she's the Shakti of Lord Jagannath. There's also the Bimala original means all of these names: Anada, Lalita, Bimala. They're all manifestations of the internal potency of the Supreme Lord. And Bimala is also the name of a Vrindavan Gopi. So it wasn't that he gave some material name. But Bimala Prasad, for those who have the vision of Bhaktivinoda and Bhaktisiddhanta, they can understand that this is a name of the Bimala refers to the internal potency of Lord Jagannath. So he taught him. Bhaktivinoda Thakur was writing books and articles and producing his magazine. He didn't write everything for his own magazine. Other people also wrote Sajjana Toshani. And from a young age he engaged Bimala in the press. He taught him how to operate the press, how to organize the type. Even when the machine went wrong, later on, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he installed the presses in his mutt at Kathak Paramarthi press. Then in Bagh Bazar, the great palace temple, and in front of the deities, they had a big hall, and in front of the deities they had the printing press. It's not there now. Press moved. But he installed the Bhagavat press right in front of the deities. So he would have a ceremony to just like you install deities, so he'd have a ceremony that this Brihan Mridanga, they'd have a ceremony for opening the press. And he himself would spend a lot of time in the press. He was very interested in this. Even though he was traveling and preaching, he also spent a lot of time sitting and writing. Because he said that establishing temples, that is for the mass population, that they can come and get some idea of Krishna consciousness, so that they can, for neophyte devotees, they can get some training and engage in deity worship. But he said that the business of advanced devotees is to prepare publications and distribute them throughout the world, to prepare Vaishnava literature. So he spent a lot of time in the press, and even when the machine went wrong, he could repair it. His disciples didn't know. He was expert in press activities. From an early age, from an early age, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur kept him with him. His Bimala. He had so many sons, but he kept this son particularly with him. And from a young, just from the very beginning of life also, this boy didn't show any interest in anything else but pure devotional service to Krishna. Very intensely executed. So our own Srila Prabhupada said that I learned this one thing from my Guru Maharaj, that he's very fond of books. There's the incident that Srila Prabhupada told, how during his business travels, the activities of pharmaceutical activities that the apparent Abhay Babu was apparently engaged in, although it's not his. That's not his eternal occupation. It's not that. As he was a businessman who became a devotee, but rather he's a pure devotee who for some time, just like Bhaktivinoda Thakur, for some time engaged in activities as a magistrate. But he's not that he's a magistrate who is a devotee. He's a devotee who was apparently, he made some masquerade, or he had some apparent worldly activities of being a magistrate. So Srila Prabhupada was for some time apparently a businessman, so he took some time out from his business schedule to visit Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur during the Brajamandal Parikrama, which he organized in 1932, I believe it was. So he came to join the party when they were at Radha Kund. So this is very significant that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, sent to this world by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He is Gora Karuna Shakti Vigraha. He is the very form of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy potency. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to this world to distribute his mercy. And the very form of that mercy is Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And what is that mercy? He's giving the process of Krishna consciousness that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave, which is ultimately Anarpita charing chirat karunyavatirno kalo samapyata munutajvala rasa swabhakti shriyam. He gave the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave that which even great acharyas previously, even Madhvacharya, Ramanujacharya, so many great acharyas, they strongly, solidly established bhakti in this world, but they didn't give that unatajvala rasa, the understanding of, or the entry into the pastimes of Radha and Krishna, which is the what is that? Prema Rasha Shima. Radhar Mahima Prema Rasha Shima. The glories of Radharani, which is the ultimate limit of love of God, that the previous acharyas did not give. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave this, and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was sent to this world to give this, and Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada was all, he's in the chain of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's showering mercy. He's in the next. Of course there are others also, but the significant distributor of the mercy which Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati brought down in Parampara is our own Srila Prabhupada. So they met, these two great personalities. At that time, the followers of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, his disciples, they understood he was a great person, but they didn't understand that this businessman he's so busy doing his business, he doesn't have time to join the Brajamandala Parikrama. He's in Maya, he's a rotten Pocha Grihastha, rotten Grihastha. They didn't understand who he was, although Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur did, because when in Bombay, this Abhay Babu, he was helping Sridhar Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj and Goswami Maharaj, Aprakrita Bhakti Saranga Prabhu. He was helping them in the preaching and organizing in Bombay. So one of them, or someone there, said to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur that this Abhay Babu, he's very expert. You should make him the president, or they didn't call it president, or the leader of our Bombay branch. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, no, it's not a good idea. Don't invite him to join. He will do everything by himself in due course of time. So, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, of course, he understood what is this person. Who is this person? But no one else did. Although they were surprised how this Grihastha, he used to get so much attention from our Guru Maharaj. All the big sannyasis are there. But he would give so much attention to this Abhay. So they were walking together at Radha Kund, the indescribably most exalted place in the universe. There's two indescribably most exalted devotees. So you may consider, well, what did they discuss? They're going to discuss the Leela of Radha and Krishna. That's what they discussed, but in a different way. This Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur told his disciple Abhay Charnaravinda Das Adhikari at that time. There was some discussion on certain disturbances within the Gauriya Math institution. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said that if you ever get money, print books. And that was the instruction that made such a deep impact on Srila Prabhupada. And then he was going through the commentary, the Bhagavad Gita commentary of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. When in the verse, Vyavasayatmika buddhi ekeha kurunandana, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives the comment, what is this Vyavasayatmika buddhi, this one-pointed intelligence? That means, what that practically means, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, is that the disciple should take the order of his guru as his life and soul. So, Prabhupada put that together, that print books, and the order of the guru, that is your life and soul. So then, he understood his mission. He was also told by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur to preach in English. So he wrote books in English. He started writing books. Prabhupada, he started writing actually magazine articles in English for Bhakti Godhead magazine, and he wrote in Bengali also some magazine articles. But then when some outsider, you could say, someone said to him, why are you producing magazines? You should write books. Why don't you write books that will have a more long-standing effect? And Prabhupada thought, yes, my Guru Maharaj is speaking through this person. So then he started. He made this small book, Easy Journey to Other Planets, and then he started, already more than 60 years old, with no sign of anyone to take any interest in what he was doing. He started translating the Srimad Bhagavatam, consulting all the commentaries. It was a major task. Presenting it in English. And then with 3 volumes of that, the first canto of Bhagavatam, he set out for the West. And he started his preaching mission. And that started expanding all over the world. But Prabhupada was always asking for, naturally as his preaching mission expanded, there was so much, we can't imagine how he was setting up a worldwide movement of Krishna consciousness with people who had just no idea. A few months before they had no idea what is Krishna consciousness. And all of a sudden they're preaching. They're the hope of the world. So Prabhupada had so much to manage and to teach, and sometimes he would ask for relief from his leaders. And he said once that, well, I can give up my activities of preaching all over the world. I can stop that. But I cannot stop my translation of my books, because that is my special service to my Guru Maharaj. So he gave most seriousness to this. Of course, several times said, now I'm going to retire and stop and write, but he never did. One time in the morning he announced, now I'm retiring, finished. I'm not going to manage anymore, travel, I'm just going to sit and write. Then late morning, he said that early morning, then late morning, letter came from one of his GBCs, and he immediately started dictating. I think it was Harishori Prabhu or Shutakirti Prabhu told that his retirement lasted for all of 3 hours. But he went on. He went on. His dedication to his service to his Guru Maharaj. We can see that there's that film was taken of Prabhupada lying on his bed. He couldn't move, he could hardly speak, but he was dictating his Bhagavatam commentary. Because he felt, it's my service, it's my eternal service to my Guru Maharaj. So eternal means as long as there's any life left in the body, we should go on with that service. So this is how we, as followers of Srila Prabhupada, can see what is the disappearance day of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He reasons ill who tells that Vaishnavas die when thou art living still in sound. A Vaishnav dies to live, and living tries to spread the holy name around. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has not died, although some of his disciples attempted to kill him by, maybe not literally in the terms of killing the body, but it's said, and it appears to be true, that certain of his disciples, that they'd collected so many of they noted down for years. They were in note form. They were taking his lectures, and later they were going to expand that, fluff them out again into articles, but pages and pages, equivalent to the whole Mahabharata in volume of notes, were destroyed by certain of his disciples who didn't want to accept his Bhaktisiddhanta. But it lives on. That cannot be destroyed. Apart from the books that he has written, that those teachings were transmitted. Again, the writings, they're not just stacks of paper, but they are the presence of the Acharya. So those who have the ability to tune in, they make heart-to-heart contact, so that Bhaktisiddhanta is fully within the heart, has entered the heart, is non-different from Bhaktivedanta. So in this way, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is living. He will never cease to live. His teachings, his Gauravani, he's the teaching Gauravani. So he is Gauravani. So that will continue to live as long as the disciplic followers continue to live according to his teachings. So the book production and distribution is at the heart of Bhaktisiddhanta, that Bhaktisiddhanta has to be distributed. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, in the Gauriya Mata logo, he put, there's the Lakshmi Narayana and the puja paraphernalia on one side, the vidhi. On the other side is rag. So in the rag marg, there's Radha Krishna, mridanga, kartals, and a printing press. So someone asks, what's the printing press doing there? And we can understand what the mridanga, kartals, the bell, the lamp, but what's the printing press? This is something modern. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati tells us that this is Raga Marg. So we're following Rag Marg, given to us by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Sankirtan movement. Is the Sankirtan, big drum, is the printing press. Hare Krishna. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki jai. His divine